Hello Magic the Gathering players, this is Maelstrom MTG, and we are back with some Budget Modern. And before I get into the deck we're playing today, I just want to say that if I have any skipping tracks or any hard time with Wi-Fi, that's because it's snowing outside and everybody is back in their dorms, so like I don't get the secluded Wi-Fi that I want. Anyway, so that's part of the reason why this video's probably not going to be paired with some gameplay, but we will try to get through the list without glitching out too much, without lagging out too much. So first up though, this deck is Nexus of Gates. If you remember it in Standard, it was a very interesting deck in Standard because it played Nexus of Fate to take extra turns, and then you would just play a bunch of like Guildgate cards. Anyway, as you can see, it's $99 in person and then $10 online. Nexus of Fate is only a $3 card, so if you are playing digitally, I highly recommend playing 4 Nexus of Fates. Otherwise, go ahead and just play the one. I actually ended up playing while it was still in Standard. Now, Standard and Modern are different, but this does illustrate a point that I didn't even play any Nexus of Fates, and this deck was still winning. And even after that, even when I only added 1 Nexus of Fate, it was still amazing. So, the Nexus of Fate, you don't really... like, it feels weird saying it, saying you don't need it, but like every Nexus of Fate you'll add to the deck will make the deck better by just that much. So not having 4 isn't crippling, but having any beyond 0 is amazing. So, diving right in though, Narset Part of Veils is going to allow us to filter our deck for more Nexus of Fates, or rather, a lot of our control is what we're going to go for, or a lot of our other spells. Because Nexus of Fate's only a 1-of, so we can't really rely on... we can't say, oh, we're going to hit Nexus of Fate off of Narset. We have this lightning bolt here as a little bit of extra removal, or as a way to deal some damage. We have some more in the sideboard if we need it, but I decided that some counter magic in the main was more important. We have Growth Spiral to draw some cards and ramp up. We have Mana Leak as our counter magic. I believe, yeah, it's our only counterspell in the main deck, and we have a pseudo counterspell in the sideboard, but this is it. It's a really good card. But then we also have Gates Ablaze. Now, Gates Ablaze is going to deal X damage to each creature, where X is the number of gates we control, and now where we control, let's say turn 2 we Growth Spiral, and then turn 3 we play a 4th Guild Gate. That's turn 3, we're going to be sweeping for 4. Or we play Guild Gates all the way through turn 3, and then on turn 4, we still deal 4. So, it's a very big damage dealer, especially later in the game. But really, quite often, you won't have to deal with very big creatures. If we're going against Tron, I'm going to tell you, Guild Gates against Tron is kind of funny, because they are speeding up their mana, and we are slowing ourselves down. Chemster's Insight is going to be a way for us to draw cards, and I know people might be skeptical to play this in Modern, but don't be. We're playing Wilderness Reclamation, which means we obviously have the mana, and even if we don't, that's really good. That's a really good card that we can pseudo flashback. Now, if you want to replace this with something else, by all means go ahead, but the ability to jumpstart is just amazing. We also have a full 4 Circuitous Route. This is a card that will be able to get us ramped pretty quickly. It's not an instant speed card that we can play with Wilderness Wreck, but it is a very good way to ramp out. So we're going to search our library for 2 basic lands and or gate cards. Well, so that's going to give us basically any color we are missing. And this is going to be, like it might seem like, oh, but it's a turn 4 ramp card, like that's bad. But it actually does a lot more. It does a lot more than you would think, especially with some of our other cards. Like, it'll pump up Gates Ablaze, or it'll get additional things off of Guild Summit. So quite often, our Circuitous Route can be the front half of Chemist's Insight, as well as fetching lands. Next up is Expansion Explosion, our way of actually winning the game in Game 1. Now, this is going to be we can copy an instant or sorcery spell with mana cost 4 or less, but nah, we don't want to do that. We want to pay X blue, blue, red, red, and deal 20 damage to our opponent, and then draw 20 cards. And then, once we do that, then we'll be... I got a notification on my phone. Once we do that, we'll be able to actually just, like, either draw ourselves into more cards to win the game, or we'll actually just win the game through Expansion Explosion. Next up is probably the best card in the deck, but that being said, it is only a one of, so like you really gotta know that, like, I'm gonna be honest, in Modern, I don't know if I would recommend going to 4 Nexus of Fates. Because 4 Nexus of Fates could be really clunky, especially if you're trying to control your opponent's board. But I might go up to, I don't know, 1 Nexus of Fate's really nice. And I know I call it Nexus of Gates, but 1 Nexus of Fate is kind of a sweet spot. I might recommend adding more and going that route, but you have to make sure that you have ways to deal with your opponent. That's the difference between when this was in Standard and now that it's in Modern. Is that I don't know if you can afford running 4 Nexus of Fates, but it is a very good card by itself. And then we have Guild Summit, which enters the battlefield. You may tap any number of untapped gates you control, draw a card for each gate taps this way. Huge card draw engine, and then whenever a gate enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This is amazing, and it's $1.32, and if you're playing this style of deck where your mana base costs like nothing. I have a single breeding pool because I was able to fit it in here, and honestly, having that untapped land is very nice. But honestly, like, Guild Summit is what makes me consider playing this in Modern. Guild Summit and Gates Ablaze. Gates Ablaze is probably the bigger factor, but Guild Summit allows you to just really outvalue a lot of decks if you're able to shut them down. You don't care if you're 1-for-1ing really if you're able to just draw that many, or even 2-for-1ing. Anyway, next up is another very powerful card in the deck, Wilderness Reclamation. At the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. So that with Guild Gates, sure, your lands might enter tapped, they're going to get untapped. But also, this allows us to turn 4 Wilderness Rec, turn 5, we'll then turn 5, pay 5 when we play our land, or pay 4 even, and untap our lands, tap out, and then we have Nexus of Fate on turn 5. And turn 5 is a little later than a lot of people would like, but it's a lot better than turn 7. And we can even get earlier if we have a ramp. But Wilderness Reclamation is also there for a lot of our other spells, and even Expansion Explosion, which is just really powerful, especially if we can get multiple Reclamations out. But then we have our lands, and so we have Azorius Guildgate because we don't actually have any white lands, but we do want some more Guildgates. I know this might seem weird, but it's basically just for more Guildgates. And also, like, you could technically run some white cards in here if you want. You have the ability to. I'm not going to. Next up is we have Breeding Pool. Breeding Pool's in there as an untapped blue-green source. Blue-green are two main colors. It's a teamer deck. It's a teamer deck. But red is more of a side color. We only have it in there as removal and then as our final win con. But by the time we're using our win con, we've set up the board so we don't need anything to enter untapped. Then we have a forest as just an untapped source. We have the same over here in an island, and we really just need those because there are certain turns that we just need things to enter untapped. And then we have Gruul Gilgate because it's teamer. Is it Gilgate because teamer? Simic Gilgate because teamer. And then Selesnya Gilgate, like, again, it's because we needed more Gilgates in the deck, otherwise we'd be running 12. And honestly, if you wanna add in some white, you have the ability to. I just chose not to. Like, I know when it was in Standard, some people played, I think it was Archway Angel in the sideboard, but I didn't want to do that. That seems very clunky in Modern. But I just wanted some more sideboards, so that's what some more Gilgates, so that's why those are there. And then we have Plaza of Harmony. When it enters the battlefield, if you control 2 or more gates, you gain 3 life. So this is one of those things. Let's say we turn 1 a gate, turn 2 a gate, turn 3 this. We gain 3 life, and if we're against an aggro deck, we can Gates Ablaze. And so we can just sweep their board on turn 2, on turn 3. So this is one of those things that we can do, and then gaining that extra life is really good against one of those aggro decks, but it's also good later in the game as well. And it can tap for any type of gate we control could produce. Make sure that you don't automatically think that this is Rainbow, because really, a lot of the time you might be like, oh wait, do I actually have that source? And that was a lot more relevant when the deck was 5 colors, but it's still something to consider. Anyway, that's our lands, and before I get to the sideboard, if you made it this long, I'm sorry if my, I keep seeing my video recorder, like, go back and forth, and so it might be a little glitchy, so I apologize. If it is, I'll re-record it on a day that is better, but, this is the deck. This is really, it's really sweet. If you like it, please smash that like button, let me know. Down below in the comments. If you want to see more of my content, if you want to see some gameplay, then go ahead and hit that subscribe. It really makes me happy to see that number go up. It just, like, I'm still fairly new to this YouTube thing, so seeing that number go up is really, really nice. Next up, though, we do have our sideboard. We have Lightning Bolts for more removal / burn. We have Ether Gust for aggro decks and combo decks. We have Damping Sphere for combo decks and sometimes Tron. We have Weather the Storm for storm and burn and prowess. And we have Gatebreaker Ram as a way to bring in some more creatures if we need them. For example, if we're going against a very creature-heavy deck. But Gatebreaker Ram is going to be a way that, like, if we play this and then we Gates Ablaze deals damage equal to the number of gates we control, and then Gatebreaker Ram is a 2/2 with +1/+1 for the number of gates we control. So we won't kill our Gatebreaker Ram off of our Gates Ablaze. So if we board wipe, like, unless they try to burn or lower the toughness of our Gatebreaker Ram in response to Gates Ablaze, it'll still live. Anyway, that is it for that's it for our list today. It's very sweet, and I really enjoyed playing it. I forgot how much I missed Guild Gates and Nexus of Fate and everything like that. Anyway, if you like it, let me know below, and I will see you next time.